And so she's a busy professor, and we haven't been able to travel as much in the past several years. We used to kind of go someplace together every year, because obviously she lives in Boston, I live here. And we haven't been able to do that for the last few years because she's so occupied with her work. But this year we were able to do it. And we were going to go out of the country. We were going to go to the Caribbean, or maybe the Dominican Republic, or we were talking about some places in Mexico. And then the swine flu thing came along, and we kind of decided maybe we wouldn't do that. We'd stay in country, and we decided to go to Maine. How many of you have been to Maine? Those of you who are not raising your hand, go there. It's beautiful. It's just beautiful. And it's big. You know, you think Maine, little New England state, it's huge. It's like the size of Alaska. You just don't realize it, that it's stuck up there, but it's a big, big state. And surprisingly, a lot of different kinds of terrain. And we were right near the ocean in a place called near the ocean. Like the whole thing's near the ocean, but I mean, we were in this place with all these beautiful inlets, this place called Booth Bay. And it was great. And the reason we were there in particular is that Janet had gone on one of those vacation rental sites where people rent out their summer homes or that on, you know, and she found this cottage in Booth Bay. Now, when I say cottage, I'm not using the term in that sort of general small house sense. I'm saying cottage. It was like a cottage. You know, it was all like cute, like a cottage, little thatched roof, a cottage, okay? You expected Little Red Riding Hood to come, you know, bouncing out. It was completely cute, and although it had all the, you know, microwave and wireless internet and all that, it still was totally quaint and cute, and little bedrooms in the garret upstairs, and you know, this creepy basement, and all these windows that faced out on this beautiful inlet, and a little dock where their canoe was, and you'd go canoeing, and we went canoeing to this little island out in the middle of the inlet and took a picnic, and it was just like, you know, it was like Beatrix Potter. I expected little talking rabbits to start hopping around. Anyway, on the refrigerator, Brenda, the woman who owned the cottage, Brenda had very thoughtfully typed up a little thing about all the various things that somebody who was renting her house might be looking for and find interesting in the local area. So if you were looking for a place to go eat, or, you know, she put the things where the laundromat was, even though there was washer and dryer there. She put, you know, where the hairdresser was, and where the best market was, and where to get fish, and where to get hamburgers. And she'd really done like a 6 or 8 page little rundown of all the things that she discovered. By the way, for those of you who like lobster, within a walk, there was this dock where you went out for lobster, and for $12, they brought you a 2-pound lobster. Now, I'm talking, this lobster tail was like more than I could eat. Whenever there's more lobster than I can eat, that's a lot of lobster. I had to take it home. It was unbelievable. I just walked down there every time I want for 12 bucks. And if you happen to be a lobster fan, you know how meaningful that is. So, it was a great, great vacation. One of the things on the refrigerator list was Vietnamese food. So one night, Janet and I decided we didn't want to barbecue or cook or go for lobster again, and we would go have Vietnamese food. That sounded good. I like Vietnamese food. So we went, and the address that was given to us when we got there was a donut shop. And we thought, this is odd. It said Vietnamese food, donuts, I don't get it. But we decided to go in and ask where the Vietnamese restaurant was. Well, there was this whole big rack of donuts, and this very obviously Vietnamese young woman came up to us, and I don't know, I can't say how long she'd been here. She might have been in the U.S. a long time, but she hadn't conquered. She understood and spoke English, but her accent was so incredibly still Vietnamese that literally we could not understand what she was saying. Although there was English in there, it sounded very much more like Vietnamese. So we're trying to understand, and we're going Vietnamese restaurant. She called, sit down, and we think she's going to serve us donuts, but there was no way to argue with her and try, because we didn't know if she was understanding what we were saying. It was very confusing. So I finally said to Janet, let's just sit down. because we're not getting anywhere. So, and I didn't want to offend her, and so we sat down, and she brought us this menu of all kinds of Vietnamese food. And turns out they fried donuts and made Vietnamese food in the back. Okay, fine. So, and meanwhile, you know, we would ask her, I always ask waitresses what they like best on the menu, just because this did not, oh, everything. She likes everything. Well, okay, so that didn't help, but so finally I picked something I like. And by the way, I'm not making fun of her accent. I just want you to understand how challenging it was to sort out communication. So here comes in a little while this pretty incredible Vietnamese food, really good. And we're enjoying that. And so then we go back to the cottage. Now this is maybe our third or fourth day there. We're going to be there 12 days. And the next morning we were sleeping in, stuff like that, you know. We were reading books to each other. And one of the books that we were reading was the David Sedaris book that's called Me Talk Pretty Someday, or Me Talk Pretty, I think. So we had, Janet and I made this little joke about, we didn't know her name, so we called her Me Talk Silly. So, so we would, you know, we had our little, you know, discussion about this woman on the way home and laughing and having a good time. So the next morning, Janet gets up much earlier than I, and I was upstairs in these little garret bedrooms. She was downstairs, and these little bedrooms were like just big enough for a bed, so cute, and everything was all fluffy and what do you call that when shabby chic? She was deep into shabby chic, this Brenda chick, and it was you know, like a movie set. It was so cute, this place, and so I hear Janet tapping on the wall downstairs. The stairs went up behind the kitchen and upstairs, and I hear her banging on the wall. Like, what's the matter, you know? And so I quick get up out of bed and head downstairs, and Me Talk Silly is in the kitchen. And I'm like going, and she's trying to make herself understood to us, and I'm like, how did she get here? How does she know where we are? Did she follow us? Did we forget our wallet? Why is she here? And we couldn't understand. Finally, it became clear that her second job was cleaning houses. So when she wasn't making donuts and Vietnamese food, she was cleaning house, industrious Asian woman. So we explained to her that we weren't leaving yet, and she didn't need to clean the house. So, okay, so every morning then, for the rest of the trip, she would be there, 9:30, tap on the, hello, clean out. No, we're not leaving. And we would tell her what day we were leaving, didn't get it. She would come back every morning. And I didn't want, because it was like 3 or 4 miles from town, I didn't want her driving out there every day with her. She had all of her stuff ready to clean. And I thought, you don't need to come until this day, but she didn't get that. She kept coming. And so it became sort of a fixture, and of course Janet and I would time our day by we couldn't leave till Me Talk Silly got there, and we could tell her we didn't need her to clean, so we could leave. Okay. So, all right. So then our vacation ends. It was sad. We wanted to stay for another. Janet has already taken it for a month next year. She's going back, and I'm going to join her for some time. Okay. So I go on to D.C., then to New York, come back here, follow up, teach class. So I get an email from Janet yesterday saying that Brenda, the owner of the Shabby Chic Cottage, had withheld half of our deposit because Me Talk Silly told her that the house was dirty and she had to clean up after us. Now, those of you who know me, well, none of you know how I live, but I am one of the 10 cleanest people on earth. There is no mess anywhere near me, ever. And, you know, the day we were leaving, I Ajaxed the tub like I do every morning, and I washed windows, you know, I did everything but press the curtains, okay? And Janet is equally like that. This house you could have eaten off the floor. So, first of all, I'm very upset that Me Talk Silly has hurt our reputation with Brenda because we're going back there. And because I know that we are in the 99th percentile of the kind of people who use vacation rentals.